Welcome back to the Self-Care Zone podcast. Today we're going to talk about something that I think doesn't get enough attention when it comes to self-care, the foundations. We're so used to looking at self-care as these individual activities, a walk here, a day off there, maybe a treat yourself moment. But if the foundations aren't solid, none of these are really going to stick. It's like building a house. You can decorate the rooms, buy some nice furniture, even hang some art on the walls. But if the foundations are cracked, the whole thing won't hold up. So in this episode, I want to unpack what those foundations actually are, why most of us skip over them, and how we can start putting them into place for your own self-care so it lasts. So let's start here. Why doesn't self-care last for most people? It's because we focus on the surface. We think of self-care as events instead of a structure. We treat it like a break from our life instead of something that supports our life. I'll give you a story. A friend of mine once said, I don't know why I bother booking these wellness weekends. I come away feeling great, but within 2 weeks, I'm right back to where I was, stressed, tired, and burnt out. And that's the problem. The weekend away was wonderful, but because the foundations of her daily life were out of alignment, she slipped straight back to the same old patterns. And honestly, I've been there too. I've had times where I thought, right, I'm going to start looking after myself. Maybe I'll go to the gym a bit more. Maybe I'll start eating a bit better. And I commit to these big bursts of activity. But within a couple of weeks, I'm back to where I was. Work took over. My old habits crept back in. And I realized I was trying to build self-care on shaky ground. The truth is, without the foundations, all of the extras simply don't last. So think about your own life. Have you ever started a self-care habit only to have it fizzle out after a couple of weeks? What got in the way? Was it time, energy, motivation, or maybe just not having the right foundation to support it? So what are these foundations? I like to think of them as 4 key pillars: rest, boundaries, connection, and alignment. So let's unpack each one of these. Rest. This is the bedrock. Without rest, nothing else holds. And I don't just mean sleep, although, sleep is big. Rest is actually about creating rhythms in your day and week that allow you to recharge. You can go for a run, do yoga, and eat a healthy diet. But if you're only getting 4 hours of sleep a night, you're not really practicing self-care. It's like pouring water into a bucket with a big hole in the bottom, isn't it? Boundaries. You can't sustain self-care if you say yes to everything and everyone. Boundaries protect the space where care actually happens. I once had a colleague who prided herself on always being available. Emails after 10 p.m, yep, she'd reply. Weekend calls, she'd take them. But the truth was, she was running on empty. When she finally set a boundary, like no emails after 7 p.m, she not only felt better, but her work actually improved. Boundaries might feel selfish at first, but really, they're the act of sustainability. They keep you from overextending so you can show up with energy and focus. Connection. We're not meant to do life in isolation. Real self-care includes nurturing relationships that feed us, not just drain us. Think about a time when you caught up with a friend who really gets you. You probably walked away feeling lighter, energized, and more yourself. Now think about the opposite. A conversation that left you drained or heavy. Connection is about choosing more of the first and less of the second. It doesn't have to be a big social circle. It's about depth, not breadth. Sometimes 1 or 2 strong, nurturing relationships are enough. And finally, alignment. This is the foundation that ties everything else together. When you're living in alignment with your values, self-care stops being something that you add on. It becomes a way that you live. I once coached someone who had a value of creativity, but she worked in a job that was rigid and process driven. Every day she felt like she was swimming against the current. Once she found ways to bring creativity back into her life, even small things like sketching at night, she noticed her whole sense of well-being improve. So alignment isn't just about changing everything overnight. It's about making sure that little by little, your choices reflect who you really are. So we've named the foundations, but how do you actually build them into your life? Let's go one by one with practical steps. Rest. Start with a sleep routine. Even 20 minutes earlier can make a big difference. Schedule micro rests through your day. 2 minutes of deep breathing between meetings. A walk at lunchtime. Little rests matter. Boundaries. Identify one area that you feel overextended. Is it work, family, social commitments, maybe something else? Write down a clear, kind way to set a limit. For example, I can't take one more right now. Can I revisit it next month? Practice it. Boundaries get easier the more that you use them. Connection. Make a list of people who energize you and the people who drain you. Intentionally schedule more time with the energizers and gently reduce the time with the drainers. Even small rituals, a weekly phone call, a regular coffee, can keep connection alive. Alignment. Take 10 minutes to write down your top 3 values. Then look at your week. How much of your time reflects those values? Choose one change that you can make to bring your life closer into alignment. If you want more on alignment, check out the last episode, which was entirely dedicated to alignment. Out of these 4 foundations, which one feels most urgent to you right now? Rest, boundaries, connection, or alignment? Hold on to that answer. That's where you start. So what happens when the foundations are solid? Here's the best bit. When the foundations are in place, self-care doesn't feel like a struggle anymore. You don't have to force it. It becomes part of who you are. Imagine this. You're well rested. You've got boundaries that protect your energy. You're surrounded by supportive relationships, and your life is aligned with your values. In that space, the extras, the bubble bath, the holiday, the yoga classes, actually work. They become enhancements instead of desperate attempts to recover. And that's the shift that we're aiming for. Self-care that lasts isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about layering strong foundations so the care you give yourself actually holds. So if you take one thing from today, let it be this. Lasting self-care is built on foundations. Without them, everything else wobbles. With them, everything else strengthens. So ask yourself, which foundation do I need to focus on right now? Rest, boundaries, connections, or alignment? Start here. If you want more on these foundations, check out the free download I'll tag in the show notes. It's for a free self-care assessment. If this episode resonated with you, make sure to follow the Self-Care Zone on Spotify so you don't miss any episodes. And if you know someone whose self-care habits never seem to stick, share this with them. It might give them the framework that they've been missing. Until next time, take care of yourself first so you can take care of others.